2026 is shaping up to be perhaps the most controversial year for the Jeep brand. In today's video, we're going to go into a Jeep dive of the state of Stellantis and Jeep as a whole, the used car market. This is going to be a fun one. We're going to dump all sorts of stuff on you, and we're just going to talk about everything that's going on. And Ryan and I had a conversation off camera, and I think this one could be pretty good. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Sit back, relax, and let's take a Jeep dive into the 2026 year and why it's going to be the most controversial for Jeep. So this conversation started inside a little bit ago. We were assembling our Dirt Road Cred high power floor lights. Shameless plug for those. You guys have been selling them out like crazy. And Ryan and I started talking in between the air compressor running and all the tools we were using. And I was like, man, I just don't know what I want to do. Do I want to buy a used Jeep Wrangler, buy like a leftover 25, or should I wait for a 2026? If you guys haven't seen our previous video, I did let go of my Rubicon 392. And let's just consider us like the stock watch or the market watch of what's going on with Jeep. I don't make any decisions randomly. I normally am very calculated with what I do, unless I make poor financial decisions and just buy a toy really quick. But most of the things I'm doing on purpose. So I'm watching the market, I'm watching what's going on, I'm reading Facebook. We live and breathe Jeep. That's all we do here. And this conversation started like, man, do I buy a new 26? We don't even know what's coming yet, if something is. Or do we just pick something else up for now and enjoy it, get a used one or a leftover 25 and have some fun with it? And that's where this whole conversation started. So really, the gist of it is that I think the 2026 year for Jeep and the Stellantis brand as a whole could either go A, one route over here and be one of the best knockout fly off the shelf years for them, or it could be a whopping bag of nothing sauce.
What I have for you today is a bottle of nothing sauce. You're gonna put it on everything.
And they've kind of put themselves in that situation where you could either go, bam, knock it out fantastically, or B, just kind of let it burn out and just keep doing the same junk over and over every year. And there's a few reasons I say that. So a few months ago, back in December, the change of leadership, a new CEO was selected for Stellantis as a whole. You guys know that the previous CEO loved EV, he loved electric. And it was quoted that he actually said, his former boss said, the best way to go to profit is just to cut cost. That was how you get more profitable. You just cut cost. Not increase quality, just cut cost and you'll make more money. Well, no, kind of like, yeah, if you cut costs, you're going to make more money. He was focused on EV. That was why we saw the removal of the diesel. We saw the push for the 4xe. It was in every single ad, everything you could do. It was the only one that you could sell on certain dealership lots. It was absolutely terrible. Fast forward a few years later, and that's changed. So there's a new CEO in town, a new North American director, Tim Kuniskis, and there's a lot of good stuff happening. The SRT brand is back. V8s are returning for the Ram 1500. I believe the Durango Hellcat's coming back. It's rumored the TRX is coming back. All this stuff is making a return, but we're not hearing anything for Jeep, right, Ryan? Like nothing, like no news on the 392, no news on a 5.7 Hemi that we've had an excellent chance to drive. But there's nothing, you know, and we're always releasing this news. We're always talking about, well, we see what we hear. But you would think that Jeep's marketing would be like, yo, we got a perfect time right now to really talk to our audience, ask them what they want. There's changes in leadership, and let's make this stuff happen. So that's path A. Can they get stuff to happen? Can they change it? Can they make the 392 price point a little bit lower? Can they stuff a 5.7 liter in the Gladiator and the Wrangler? Can they add more standard features to a Rubicon? Can they lower the price? Do all of these beneficial things? Because right now, I would say, and arguably this brand needs it the most. Jeep has been hurting for quite some time, and I want to say that it's almost like the Jeep curse. It seems to change ownership every 10 to 15 years, and it's just let somebody else clean up the mess, fix it up a little bit, and just let the diehard people buy it. The problem that's occurring now is you're not just having the diehard guys buy into a Wrangler or a Gladiator. You're having modern individuals that perhaps have never owned a Wrangler, never owned a Gladiator, getting into this, and they are reading the horror stories about the corrosion. They're reading the horror stories about the engine, about this, that, and the other failing. And they're thinking to themselves, you know, I've never had one of these, and maybe this is all just rumors and it doesn't really happen, but I might start looking at other brands because I do not have any brand loyalty to Jeep like we do. These guys at Jeep Corporate, it was funny, that last survey that came out, Ryan, how about it? It said, do not publish any. There was like another survey. We can't even talk about it because it said, do not publish. You can be sued by Jeep. And it was funny because it's like, Wonder where that came from. But it's like, you got to talk to your audience, talk to the guys, and see what everyone wants. But when I go to that point, they are at the pivotal spot where they can make those changes. Instead of just keeping going, trucking along, and letting it be someone else's problem, they can address them now, start to fix them. And I'm not sure exactly how that looks, whether it's lowering the price, adding more features, adding a V8 option at not an insane price. Whatever it is, it has to be something, because it cannot continue the way it is. The Rubicon X's, the 392s, we're pushing 70-some thousand for a Rubicon X, 106 for a 392. And then the problem is, I just sold mine, the absolute tanking of the values. They are just dropping off like flies, and that is one scary thing. So that's path A, is make a huge pivotal change and do some things like that. Now, Ryan, what do you want to talk about? What would we like to see for path A? What changes would we like to make? And then we'll get into path B, is just what's going on. So path A, I got to see the prices come down.
It sucks for the used market.
It's going to destroy it. So there's like pros and cons of all this, right? So lowering the price point of the Jeep Wrangler and the Gladiator, which they've been trying to do. They're adding incentives, they're adding money off, all this stuff, which they never did. When I bought my first JL, they were like, this is the price. You don't pay anything less than it because Jeeps hold their value. Well, now Jeeps aren't holding their value because the price has skyrocketed the past few years. So if they do lower the price for the 2026 model year, much like Ford just did on the Bronco Raptor by $10,000, what is that going to do to the used market? Personally, I think it's going to destroy it. I think it's already been tanking so badly. If they release the 26 model year at a lower price point to get more new folks involved, to get more people to buy them, because let's be honest, they care about that first time sale. They probably don't care as much about after it changes hands a few times. That first time sale, it's going to increase the sales volume, but boy, those used values are going to take a dive. I want to see a lower price point, but I also know that we have used Jeeps. So by taking that lower price point, we're also going to take a hit. And that's a scary portion. What do you want to see, Ryan? In a 26 positive, like what they could make a big change for right now?
Just give us some standard features and like, I don't know, you don't need as many trims. Just like, you're penny pinching different trims of different features. I.e.
putting no ambient lighting in the 2025 Sport S Gladiator so Ryan can't use our high power floor lights.
It's so annoying. It's frustrating. But yeah, no, I think there just needs to be, just make some things standard across the board. And they do a little bit of that every year.
Right.
But
2025 is arguably one of the best years for that.
Yeah.
Standard power windows, power locks, wireless Uconnect, the CarPlay. But it's like, come on.
Put the standard stuff across the board.
Yeah.
But, you know, make some of the, add a 5.7 and make that the higher trim package then.
Right.
Give the worth of that higher trim something that's...
Yeah, make it your standard features and give you, I mean, I would argue like remote start, heated seats. Like, I get it, some folks don't want heated seats. They live in Texas, they live in California, they don't need them. But in my point of view, we just looked at my wife. She's a 2025 Ram 1500. And is the Rebel X, and it is like loaded to the hill. Cooled seats, digital rear view, heads-up display, wireless like passenger side screen, and that truck MSRP'd at like the 75 mark. That's a full-size truck, crew cab leather, heated and cooled seats and everything. And I'm looking at a Rubicon X, no digital rear view, no heads-up display, no passenger side screen, no cooled seats, which in a Jeep, come on, give me cooled seats so I can cool out before I go to my business board meeting. But I think you're right. You're right on that point, is that we need to see more of a value to it. And I think pushing upwards of like 40s and 50s for vehicles that are just not that loaded up, that don't have a lot of features in them, or penny pinching. Like, let's not make this trim have ambient light and let's add this to this trim. Like, let's just make it all the same display, make it all the same screen, really nice, robust stuff. It's going to cut down on manufacturing costs. And then, like you said, give it more engine options. Maybe that's what you're paying for. You get this a la carte, or you pick the Jeep, this is your body, this is your tub, pick what color you want. That's a big thing I would say. Give some more colors, like put those all back, and then you pick your engine. Like, you get that trim, and then like, okay, you want a Hemi? It's 10 grand more. You want a 392? It's 20 grand more.
The doors off, it just doesn't cut it anymore.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I think the biggest elephant in the room is like looking at all the other brands and seeing all the tech that's going into them, all the really cool stuff, and then just the Jeep's just left behind. All the time it's left behind. And that used to work because people use them rugged and outdoors and beat the snot out of them. Not anymore. So that's what we would like to see. on a 2026. If they go down that route, it's like pros and cons. So pros, lower the price, cons, the used market takes a dump. So that's where even like I'm like, if they lower the price on a 26 but don't lower it enough and don't add a ton of features, I'm just going to buy a used one. I'm going to buy something like that. And another thing that brings us up on this point now, remember, we're still on the side of like what Jeep needs to do to change the controversy. You know, I think they need to change a lot of things in their positioning themselves. But one thing that is on their side, and I'm not going to get political with this, was that the elimination of the corporate average fuel economy, CAFE standards, has now, I believe, been wiped away. Ryan, we can fact check it, but I said July 19th. It was like completely removed now. Now, if you guys don't understand what CAFE restrictions and fines are, Stellantis has been paying, it said from the year 26 to 2019, $400 million in fines for breaking the corporate average fuel economy standards. What this means is that when you look at your window sticker and you see 17 mpg city, 19 mpg highway, across your entire corporate fleet or manufacturer, so say Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, you have to meet a certain standard. So anytime you see a Hellcat, a Demon, a TRX, any of this crazy stuff, the 392 Rubicon get released, just know that that is breaking most of the time these CAFE standards, and Jeep is paying a healthy fine. When you divide it up by each unit, I can't imagine how much it costs. $400 million in 3 years. How many cars do you think they sold that were like that they just had to distribute this across every single one of their vehicles? But the biggest one that is the offender is the high horsepower. So you can't add this cost onto a Chrysler Pacifica minivan because that one's not breaking it, nor is the minivan person going to pay the price. But my problem is that when you look at the 392 right now at 106, it's pushing that to the absolute limit, and it's because there were all these fines and violations on it. With those being removed, how does that factor into the price? I knew a lot of auto manufacturers were not doing the V8s. They were going EV, they were going hybrid because these fines were absolutely astronomical. And I want to say that with them being removed, is it enough just removing them to redesign an engine or to put a V8 in there quick when in 3 years it could just all go back to EV again? And now they've got this V8 power plant and the plants down in wherever they're making them, producing all these V8s, and now it just, nope, has to be EV. And I personally, I don't think that's right to just keep going back and forth and deciding, no, we want EV, no, we want gas, no, we want this. You got to make up your mind. And for these companies to be looking at it as a business structure, it's hard to make a huge investment when you're not sure what the future is. Now, in our case, we know that they can already do the Rubicon 392. Will the price come down? How much is that fine per unit? Because I don't know how many they're making a year, maybe 5,000.
And that's that like divide of like, are they going to...
Will they drop the price?
Are they going to drop the price on this? And if they do, are they going to invest it back into making something better? Or are they just going to pocket that money that was going out the door?
Or are they going to keep the MSRP the same? Or are they just going to keep it the same and say, hey, you know what, we're not paying these CAFE fines, but we're just going to keep profiting? I think that's where people... but they could keep them the same, profit more, but then it won't destroy the used market. So that's a bit of a... because their brand would be pretty tarnished. If they say they dropped it like the Bronco Raptor did, 10 grand, 15 grand, what are these used ones going to drop? Probably by double that. And that's going to be really hard for those current owners because they're going to be upside down pretty far. So, but with that, the CAFE standards, I just wanted to bring it up because I knew about it, but I wanted to dive into it a little bit more so I understood what these fines actually look like, and they are very significant. So if you guys have been wondering why they're not putting a 5.7 liter Gladiator in, why they never did it, can you imagine adding a second gas guzzler instead of the 392? Now you have a 5.7 in the Jeep fleet, and there's not that many Jeeps, right? When you talk about it, you think about it, they've got the Wrangler, the Cherokee, the Grand Cherokee, the Wagoneer, which is that its own brand? No, that's Jeep. That's still under Jeep. But those had V8s in them too. So I guess they were okay with the Wagoneer. Maybe that's why those were so expensive, because they put the 6.4 in it and they had to pay a fine.
That's what happened.
And then those things are worth like half. People are selling those for like 45, 50 grand, but that's probably what happened. They probably took your V8 Gladiator and put it in the Grand Wagoneer.
That's it.
That's what they did. Yeah. So they were like, we're cool with putting a V8 in another vehicle, but it's got to be this Grand Wagoneer because we'll make more money. And you know why? Because the Grand Wagoneer is also on a Ram 1500 frame and chassis. So all they had to do is put a different tub on the Ram chassis and put a V8, which they are already doing as well. So
Makes a lot of sense.
when you start rationalizing it like that, it's hard to, it's a business move and it's where can we make the most money, but it was also old ownership and old people running that. That was the old CEO that was doing that, which was let's cut and let's make as most.
Did they launch the Wagoneer brand? Is that
That was Stellantis during the luxury. You couldn't compare. I remember doing all sorts of meetings and stuff. You couldn't compare it to like the Lincolns and compare it to that. It was its own thing. And but either way, like with that being gone and new leadership right now and the SRT back, like let's just do some cool stuff and be done with it. But you can't do cool stuff and then still have it at $100,000, $150,000. Give us a stripped down 5.7 Hemi, something like that. But I don't want to go too far on this topic. I just found it interesting when you start sitting here and talking like this, connecting those dots, like connecting the Grand Wagoneer with the 6.4 because that's what it came with, and then now they get the 3.0 liter Hurricane. So they went away from the V8s because you know what, the Wagoneer got the 5.7 too. The Wagoneer got the Hemi too. The Wagoneer got the 5.7, and then the Grand Wagoneer you could get the 6.4. So they wasted your two Hemis on Wagoneers.
But at least you have a Recon coming out to offset it.
But at least, yeah. Now, what's going on with that? We saw it in the Jurassic World, like teasers. The Recon was being utilized. I think they're probably rethinking that a little bit. Now that they don't have to go as hard with the EV to get those CAFE fines down, I would love for them to do that as what Scout is doing, and also what we just saw a Chinese Ford or China's Ford branch is releasing a Bronco like Sport, an EV only model that gets 400 miles. And an EV gas generator model that gets this 758 miles of range. Can you imagine that on a small, like, dude, a two-door getting 800 miles of range out of it?
It never happened.
It would never happen here in the States, but like that's the future. And I will say that maybe that we're talking about what Jeep wants to do. I don't want to see all EV. I don't really want to see an all EV Wrangler unless it gets crazy mileage. An EV with a gas generator, I'm in. I would go buy one. You guys can bookmark this video. If they come out with one and it would be a reasonable price and get 800 miles of range out of that thing, the ultimate overland vehicle, because you can run gas, you can run electric. I think there is so many things that they are probably thinking in their brain, just like me, is what they can do, what they need to do, how do they pivot. And it's just
you're hitting both sides of it then too. You're putting it all in one. You're not excluding one or the other, and that's what's hurting the 4xe. Is it's like just. It doesn't have enough range to be an EV.
No. And everyone's going to argue with us in the comments that it makes more foot-pounds of torque and it makes more of this and the 392 and that. But in reality, I'm just more upset with all the recalls that are going on with it. The battery underneath, it's causing all sorts of problems. And then just the 2 miles of range out of it. It's just not... I'm not going to plug it in every night to get 22 miles. Now, I would plug in to get 400 miles and then put a little gas in to get me further. I'm in because you're now not excluding it. You're getting great mileage, and you're also kind of making a perfect transition between gas and electric. Personally, I think that's where we should have started, and I've said that before, the gas hybrid kind of models instead of going pure EV and then backtracking. I think we are backtracking right now to what should have been done first. I think we should have taken a notebook out of diesel locomotive trains, which are a diesel engine that powers an electric motor. That's all the diesel engine does. It's a big diesel engine, it powers an electric motor, and that's been fine for 20, 30 years, and it makes tremendous power. And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I think Jeep right now is at the perfect point. They got to do something for 26 to keep the audience. They've got to really, and maybe they are. That's why we're seeing a little bit later of a launch. Maybe they're like putting all their heads together and like, let's do something, because if they don't, we're going to be the first ones to talk about it. If the 26 comes out and it's a whopping bag of nothing. So those were like all positive. No, like, so those were like kind of all that trajectory of, look, you guys can make a change and here's the time to do it. The pros and cons of both, like what that needs to look like. But man, if they keep doing the things that they have been doing, if they keep raising prices, keeping the quality control down like they are, and just overall just giving us nothing as Wrangler and Gladiator owners. I'm not talking about the lunatic fringe that designed the Rubicon. I'm not talking about probably the 5% of the consumer group that wheels every day. I'm talking about the 95% of Jeep Wrangler and Gladiator owners. If they keep it the same, that might be, I hate to say it, but it's like almost like a nail in the coffin. I mean, for me to say it, and for you to think it too, I mean, I don't know how many I'm up to. Probably 30 Wranglers. At this point, when you talk about brand loyalty, that's all I've ever owned as a vehicle. I might have had a couple little cars in between then, but if they keep increasing the prices, not changing anything quality, not changing any features, not giving you anything else until the next version of the Wrangler, which that I'm nervous about, which is they've subjectively said 2028 or even later, 2030. What are they going to do for the next 3 or 4 years? I think that if there's no changes at all,
Put the money back into engineering.
maybe they're just going to get fired up, but I don't think there'll be enough people around to buy the Wrangler and Gladiator in 3 years. If they keep the prices the same, if they don't add any more features.
But really, what was between like 2015 to 2018? What was different? There wasn't much.
No, 2015 to so Ryan brings up a valid point. The later years of the JK, right? Let's talk about the later years of the JK because that's what we're into right now. 2025 model year. If they do redesign in 28, we're right at the like end years of the JK. They redesigned the cluster a little bit because my dad had one and it was probably the worst GPS. You remember my dad's? It was like bloop, bloop every time you touch it. No rear view camera. How can you not have a rear view camera up until 2018? They never had one. They changed the seat bolstering a little bit. They added trims such as like they had the initial it was the Rubicon X. It was the X or the Hard Rock. Vented hood, you had AEV bumpers, Mopar steel bumpers. There was no Extreme Recon package, still had the Rubicon packages, but not really any changes. And I guess we should be grateful for the JL because the JK, we didn't even have any different engine options here. We had a 3.6 V6 with either a manual or an automatic. That was it. Overseas, they had 2.2 liter diesels. They had a couple different options, but here we didn't. Are they going to do the same with the Wrangler JL and Gladiator? They're just going to run it out because the Gladiator currently, what can you get? A 3.6 automatic. That's it. The Wrangler 2.0 or a 3.6. So you have two options, but not many. They've kind of trimmed it down. No more diesel. And you get the 392, but no more diesel. And the Gladiator is very trimmed down. So if they do keep it the same, really the only thing they did in the last years of the JK, what I would say they updated the infotainment and the screen a little bit, but we've already seen that change. So are they going to update that at all, or are they just going to let that one ride and be done with it? What I think could be changed would be maybe some powertrain or maybe some driveline. Bigger axles, driveline. Those would be things that you're not restructuring the entire vehicle, but you're adding more something underneath, or maybe throw the diesel back in. I don't know. But yeah, the last years of the JK, not really anything. A couple, they did the Golden Eagle, I want to say was in like 2018, 2016. I can't remember, maybe 2017. But not a whole lot, and the prices just kind of stayed around the same. So my fear, though, is just kind of what we've seen with the JL audience and how they just want it to be almost perfect of a vehicle, a daily driver, something they can go all the time with. If they don't change it, it's just gonna... I don't know if there'll be enough people excited for the 2028 model year unless they really do something crazy. And then 2028, we're back into a different potential political, maybe back to EVs. So I'm trying to think of this long term as a corporate side of it. Where do they go? Could they add the V8 into the Gladiator, change the frame a little bit and do it? But that's going to take some engineering. It's going to take some time. I don't know. I think for me, like I drive the two-door right now, but I don't have a personal Jeep right now. I'm curious on what to do. If the prices don't change, if they stay where they're at, I see more value in picking up a used one and building it up versus losing my butt on a new one right now. And that's a hard thing, unless you love the color. That's the one thing new has going for it is you get the cool colors. If you want juice, if you want mojito coming out, you can get it with a new one, but you can't necessarily get a used one. And I think their marketing is starting to go on the right side, right, Ryan? Like we've seen some cool mojito when that was coming out. We actually saw some dang photos of it. That's all we really wanted. The Harrison Ford commercial, yeah, that was perhaps one of the best Super Bowl commercials. Arguably, I'm favored towards Jeep, but it was a good commercial, and that was get out there and write your own at the end, huh? All right, guys. But then again, the other side of the marketing is like flying influencers with a couple thousand subscribers, first class out to California, and then helicopter flight to the Rubicon Trail for the Jeep Jamboree, and then not know how to put it in four-wheel drive. But that works well because they probably sign all those PR agreements and they can just be like, Jeep is the best thing ever. Come in my Jeep and let's drive today. Like, we're not going to do that, right? We break down on the side of the road. We're going to tell you about it. But then 3 months later, we're going to go buy another damn Jeep. But we're going to tell you that there's no credibility if you just snip it up and make the perfect scenes for on the Rubicon Trail or like Ford Jeep. You got to be honest and upfront with it. And Tim Kaniskis did. he said he's like, sometimes people get it wrong. And then he brought the V8 back. Could they do that across the whole thing? Could they? Or is it like,
That's leadership. I don't know.
yeah, there's a scapegoat? Like, blame it on somebody else. Like, yeah.
Just letting it go.
Yeah, if they're not there that day, you blame them. That's what we do down here at our shop. If they're absent, you blame them. But yeah, it just seems like they're at, I would say in my head, I'm 50-50 of a pivotal moment of either like some really badass stuff or just really the same for the next few years. That's what's scary. Because it's hard for us, especially, and I'll go into this as like content creators with Jeep. It's how do we reinvent the wheel when it's been the same wheel for 7 years? How do we change it up? How do we do different builds? And if you guys have been wondering, that's why we're looking at doing, like we're doing the juice, we're doing new builds, and we might go into just building Jeeps to actually have them for sale, build them, change them up, modify them, see what looks cool, and then just sell them. Because I think we're at the point where we want to see what we can do and test our limits with the JL, but if they don't change anything up, it's going to be hard to. Now, of course, all this is subjective to like the 2026 isn't out yet. So this is almost like a good video to do ahead of time. So it's like, mark my words, if this happens or that happens, and then we're going to get to see in like maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, but we will have all sorts of content on the 2026. As soon as one comes out, I mean, we're almost going to have to order one. We just have to do it. You know, it makes financial sense to do it. After all that talking crap, let's order one. But it will have the ordering guide, what you should look for, what comes with each package. And sometimes we actually see some like different things in the back end that we can check out, like what actually is listed out. I'd love to see some cool stuff, but either way, regardless of what happens when the 2026 model year is released for the Wrangler, which could be today, Anthony will text me, could be tomorrow, could be whenever, we will have all that content out. And I think that's going to really help make our decision. And I'm not saying that you should listen to any of our opinions and make your own with it, but this is just us sitting here in the garage talking. So if you got anything out of this, I hope it was just like you and I having a conversation for the listeners out there and talking with Ryan and I and just going over it as a whole. And sometimes I think to myself, man, does anyone care about Jeep as much as we do? And I think a lot of people do. This has become a livelihood. You go to these shows, we're going to Tennessee in a month, and it becomes like a livelihood, and your family and your friends are involved with it. So it really does matter to us, and it matters what's coming out. So we're excited. It could be anything. It's almost like waiting for Christmas morning. And if you either got Cole or you got like the new like Xbox 360, like that's where we're at right now. We're at like, did you get another new pair of socks, or did you get like
A corroded sock.
or a sock with the corrosion on it? Yeah. Yeah. Have a conversation down below with us though, guys. Let us know your thoughts on this. And I hope if you guys were like sitting at work or driving along listening to a podcast style video, you got something out of this. We're hoping to do these more because I do find them very enjoyable for us. They're relaxing. And honestly, I think that we should have something here where we get some of our bigger guys, you know, our B&M Off-Road, Joe from Locked and Loaded, go over different topics and just sit here for an hour and chat about it, because it is fun when you start to sit down and ask questions to each other. So let us know down below in the comments what your thoughts are. What do you think about the used market? Are you keeping your current Jeep? Are you hoping for a 26? Are you letting it ride on your 25? What are you doing? As we close this one out, I just want to thank you guys again from Ryan and I, for everyone that's been supporting this channel. And we notice you guys down below. So thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, though, Ryan's behind the camera. I'm here talking to you. And we want you to get out there and earn yours.